Today I'm going to show you how to make a fabric tumbler with the all-new CrystaLac Glitter Glue. I first want to say this is my favorite way to make fabric tumblers. Like, I haven't posted a tutorial yet because I hate Mod Podge and I hate the E6000, and they just don't work very well. But now that I have made them with the glitter glue, I cannot recommend it enough. So before we get into the step-by-step, my name is Allison, and here on the Allison Crafts YouTube channel, I empower you to make new crafts every single week. So if you want new inspiration, how-tos, and tutorials every single Thursday, make sure you hit that subscribe button and shoot me a thumbs up if you like the video. So to make a fabric tumbler with the glitter glue, it is a similar process to if you were using Mod Podge or E6000. So I'm gonna tell you exactly why I love this glitter glue for fabric tumblers and how I use it. The reason that I like it so much is that it, first things first, dries in 2 hours. So I did 3 total layers of the glitter glue. So that is 6 hours, and I was ready for my Brite Tone. If you're using Mod Podge, like, you have to wait days in order for you to get started on your tumbler. And E6000 could potentially be in that time frame, but this stuff is so much easier to use. You want to make sure that you have the proper tools. You need an X-Acto knife, and you need a cup edging tool and some sort of brush. You need a tumbler and you need fabric. Any cotton fabric will do. I usually get mine from Joann's, or I'll get it from Etsy, because so you can get smaller cuts like 1/4 of a yard or 1/2 of a yard delivered from Etsy. You could also find pretty cool patterns on there as well. And you need to have a stainless steel tumbler, and you need to prep it. So when we're talking about the type of tumbler, a skinny or a straight is gonna be the best for you. Any of the curved tumblers are just really hard to get fabric. I highly recommend just using a skinny tumbler, or even a straight tumbler that has no taper is gonna be your best option. So let's get into that step by step. Let me know in the comments below if you have any questions at all, and let's get to it. I have a 20-ounce skinny that has been spray painted black as a base coat. Remember that the base coat is optional, but I prefer to have it that way. And I'm going to use the CrystaLac Glitter Glue. And what I did was took my piece of fabric and I cut it down into a rectangle so it was just a little bit taller than my cup, and so that the fabric would overlap by just about 1 inch or 2. To add the fabric, I just squeezed it right out of the bottle and brushed it all around the cup. You want to make sure that you get every piece covered and that you use enough to get full coverage, but it's okay if it looks a little bit streaky. That's normal. I'm using a brush from the CrystaLac company, which is just a Tack-it brush, and then I put it right in water because it dries quick and it dries hard. So you're going to wrap your fabric and just use your hand to squeeze it sort of tight so there's no bubbles and that your fabric is touching the cup everywhere. So I decided to put a little glue where the fabric will overlap because I need it to stick. So I just pull it tight and then stick it, and remember, you want it to overlap. So just use your fingers to work out any kinks or bubbles so it's fully flat on your cup. Then you're going to put glitter glue all the way around your cup on the outside. Just the same way, just use as little as possible. You don't need to saturate it a ton, but you want to get underneath that fabric because you, again, want it to be stuck. Because you're going to need to cut your fabric here in a minute. I laid my cup down on some parchment paper, and I'm going to use an X-Acto knife to cut this overlapping piece. So this is where I have the hardest time with fabric tumblers because I am just not good with an X-Acto knife. You need a lot of pressure, and you're going to cut through both pieces of fabric. So where they overlap, you're going to cut through both pieces. And in order to get through 2 pieces of fabric, you need a lot of pressure. So that top piece comes right off, and I had to go back in and sort of apply even more pressure to get it to come fully off. So you'll see me fumble through this. So ideally, you would pull this piece back and that second piece would also just peel right off. But again, I'm not good with an X-Acto knife, so I have to go through and cut it again. But hopefully you're better than me and you can just get this all done in one pass. But it's okay if you have to sort of recut a little bit. It's really not that big of a deal. But this piece just pulls away, and then when you pull back that fabric, they line up perfectly. The idea is that you cut through both pieces, so now the seam aligns perfectly. So I did have to use a little bit more glue to reattach the fabric because it gets all soaked in. But just pull it tight and get your seams to line up exactly. You can cover this seam later in the process, and I will talk about that later. I let this dry for at least 2 hours, if not overnight. Just because it's a lot of glue, I think the longer the better. So after that dries, you're going to do another coat on top of your fabric. So this is technically the second coat on top of the fabric. You're just going to go all the way around the cup just like before, and then you will let this dry for 2 hours. Repeat that step one more time so you have a third coat of glue over the top. It's the exact same process. That second coat I just let dry for 2 hours, and then I went on to the third. And once again, let it dry for 2 hours. And then you can trim your edges. I'm using a cup edging tool. I will put the link in the description box below. Make sure that if you have a cup edging tool, you're switching out your blades so it's very, very sharp. And you can change the distance from the top to make your rim as tall or as short as you want. And then you can pull away your fabric. And you're going to repeat this on the other side. So you'll see that this glue did leave some residue. So just keep that in mind. You should be able to wipe it with some rubbing alcohol. I didn't, and it definitely went away with some Brite Tone, but just to be careful, you might want to wipe it away. So then you're ready for coats of Brite Tone. I did 3 coats of Brite Tone over the top of this cup. Make sure you let each coat of Brite Tone dry for 4 hours before recoating. After I had 3 coats, since my seam wasn't 100% perfect, I took a 400 grit sanding sponge and just sanded right over the seam to level that out. After I sanded, I was able to add a couple more layers of Brite Tone, and this cup was fully and completely smooth. So I had, I believe, 6 coats total. At this point though, you could add glitter. You can cover up the seam with the vinyl, just like any other fabric tumbler that you have seen. I love the glitter glue for this tumbler. It's absolutely perfect for fabric. It's very strong and it's significantly better than Mod Podge and E6000. If you want more tutorials, join me in the video that I have queued up for you so you can see some more ways to use the CrystaLac Glitter Glue.